Hey, my name is Michael Manatskanian, and I'm the creator of this budget and net worth worksheet. We'll quickly dive into the main tools provided on the worksheet, but it includes budget tracking, budget summary, net worth tracking, as well as estimating your financial independence progress. So, once again, I'm Michael Manatskanian. I'm the creator of this calculator. I have been able to achieve financial independence prior to turning 30, which is awesome. And I've been tracking my net worth and planning out my budget and following it since my very early 20s. If you want to connect with me, please feel free to do so on Instagram or YouTube. They're both linked right here. So let's get started. So the first thing you're going to want to do when you access this calculator is you're going to click File and make a copy. You're going to call it, so for me, it'll be Michael underscore. You can call it whatever you want, and you choose where you want to save it. In this example, I'm just going to save it in my drive. You won't be able to edit this main copy, so you always have to make a copy and use that if you want to be able to edit it. So let's get back into it. So just at a high level, the reason why this is one of my favorite tools is because if you're not planning on how your income is going to be utilized towards your expenses and savings, how do you know what you're actually working towards? And how do you know if you're meeting the mark? And if you're not tracking your net worth, how do you know if you're making progress in regards to your assets increasing over time and measuring your level of financial success? So for me, that's why it's so important to have a budget, have projected budget, estimate where your funds are going to go, and then see if you're actually sticking to that, as well as tracking your progress along the way. So it all starts with knowing where you currently stand. And that's why it's so important for this as your foundation. So let's quickly get into it. Just a reminder that a budget is not meant to be restrictive. You are honestly the one who controls what you put in your budget. It's really more of a tool for you to be aware of how much income you have, how much you pay down, or how much gets taken away in deductions, and then what are you doing with each dollar afterwards? Are you spending it the way that you want to be? Are you enjoying the spending that you're doing? Or are you just spending because you think you have the funds for it? Are you investing towards your financial independence and towards your future? It's really ultimately up to you. So you dictate how your budget will go. But the purpose of a budget is to be able to bring awareness to what you're going to be spending your funds on. So a few things I want to clarify are needs versus wants. In the terms of a budget, needs are those things that are actually necessary. And really a lot of this is subjective, but for a lot of people, needs include housing, food, at least grocery shopping. Maybe for some people, their vehicle is a need, utility bills, let's say internet. Whereas wants are something that you don't necessarily need. You can definitely live without. A few examples are, let's say you have a vehicle, but you're going out and you're spending money on ride sharing, like Ubers, you're ordering food delivery, you're going out to eat frequently or drink frequently, things like that. It's ultimately up to you what you classify as a need versus want, but you got to really be honest with yourself. Otherwise, it doesn't do you a lot of good. An emergency fund is money you have set aside in a high yield savings account that is there just in case of an emergency. For most people, the rule of thumb is you save between 3 to 6 months of your expenses so that you have that ready and available to deploy if worst case scenario something comes up. Your planned expenses are just savings, but these are savings towards specific targets like a vacation, a new car, whatever you have in mind. Your net worth is essentially your total wealth. This is where you're tracking all of your assets, things that have monetary value like stocks, cash, real estate, and then you subtract away your liabilities, including debts like a mortgage, car loans, credit cards. The goal is that your assets exceed your liabilities. So you have a positive net worth if your assets exceed your liabilities. So we're going to get into the budget worksheet tab, and I'm going to get into that right away. Real quickly, let's get through some of the terminology. So there's the projected versus actual portions. So in a budget, you're going to have your income and then your planned expenses, but you can only project what you anticipate you're going to spend. Then you want to track, what did you actually spend for that last month, for that last year, however you're doing your budget. You want to both compare what you thought you were going to spend versus what you actually did spend, so that you're holding yourself accountable. Income is simply just entering the income that you have. You have your expenses, which we'll run through. It's very straightforward. And then you actually also have your deductions as well. So let's get into that. So on the budget worksheet, you have your various categories, including your income. This is where you enter your salary, paying taxes. So let's say you make $7,000 a month is what you projected. And usually that's going to be the same amount as your actual. Maybe you work overtime or something like that. Maybe you decide to create another line here. So let's say you have no side hustle income. So you want to erase that. You're free to erase all of this information and fill in with yours. You actually want to. There's just sample data in here for you to have a starting place to see kind of what it looks like. But you're going to erase all this. And you're going to input your own values. Let's say you project to make 5,000 and you make 5,000, but you don't have side hustle income, but you work overtime. So you decide to put overtime in here as an option. And you projected $100, but you actually made $1,000 because you worked a lot more overtime. That's the general idea there. And you can change any of these subcategories. Ask you not to touch the main categories, at least income, expenses, and deductions. And I would leave income and deductions alone as well. But you might have to change these subcategories here to make more sense for how you actually, how your income is gained each month and how your deductions are. Maybe you don't pay for medical insurance or whatever. Maybe you don't pay taxes until the end of the year. You have to put that in there because your income is really your gross income. You want to know the net income after your deductions are pulled out. Let's say you have 5,000, but you have 1,000 going to taxes. You want to know, what are you doing with the remaining 4,000, right? Because that's really what you have to work with. So then let's go into expenses. I have various categories here for you. You edit this to make it make sense for you and your lifestyle. But the main categories we have under expenses include home, transportation, living. Whoops. For me, it's living. We'll break these down further. Recreation, kids, savings and investments, and any debt payments that you have. And this will just take your total of your projected and your actual, just tell you what the difference is. So one thing to talk about is each of these has a need or want drop down. You can obviously leave it gray, but I highly advise that you at least select need or want. Maybe you think everything's a need and that's fine, but that plays into some of the calculations later. But you can just go in here and erase everything. You can even erase that info. So you can literally erase all of this. But I wanted the version that you copy to have sample data. So you don't erase the code down here. You actually can't. If you see this, it's because you're trying to erase code that you're not supposed to. If you see that, just click cancel unless you're really, really knowledgeable about Excel and you know how to fix it if something goes wrong. But that's really ultimately up to you, and you have to create a new calculator or get a new copy. Once you erase all of this, then you go in and actually fill it out. So let's say your take-home salary is $5,000 a month, $100 of overtime is what you projected. This is what you actually ended up, right? This is what you're going to set initially. And then you're going to go back each month and fill out, okay, actually, what did I end up doing? For federal taxes, you have, or, you could enter your deductions, what you project versus what you actually get. Easiest is to look at one of your pay statements and see what it says. Then go into, okay, your mortgage is going to cost you $2,000 a month. So it's pretty easy, your mortgage or your rent to be accurate on, right? You should actually end up with that. Then you're going to select, that's a need for me. I pay, $15 a month, let's say for rental insurance, that's a need. HOA fees, you have none. Electricity, whatever. You just keep going through it. Maybe you decide internet is a want for you. That's fine. For me, it's a need because anything that helps me make money, that's an easy way for me to, anything that helps me make money, stay healthy, live life, and support myself, I consider that a need for the most part. your car payment, maybe you're spending, even if you set this as a need, if you're spending $1,000 a month, you can go back and evaluate and say, okay, I need a vehicle, but do I really need a vehicle that costs me $1,000 a month to pay? But this is the first piece, is getting it all out there and just understanding, does your expenses, your projected, exceed your projected income? You want to know, is there a reason why you're not able to save? And this could be it. And you also want to include your savings and investments here as well. And so if we go into now the budget summary, let's look at the how to use this tab. So there's a couple different tables. You have your budget summary table. You know what? We'll just go right into it. So you have your budget summary table, which takes your income, your deductions, and your expenses from the other, your projected and your actual. And it just subtracts it all, right? So your income minus your deductions minus your expenses. So this tells you what is left over each month. Ideally, you want this number as close to zero, and I'll explain why in just a second. Same with your actual. And you really want your projected and actual to be very close to each other, unless for some reason your actual is better. Maybe you're saving more than you thought you would, which would be great. And then your budget breakdown by category. So these are the categories that we had before. You see the home, transportation, living, total. Let's say you change kids and you say pets, and you change that to pet food, and you change that to, I don't know, boarding, pet toys, whatever. Then when you go here, this will automatically pull in that. And then all the values in there will stay in this area. But you need to try to keep them in the same number of tables, even if you change the categories in them. Now, one quick thing I didn't go through is your living. Well, here's some perfect examples of living, things that you need to survive, right? Your food for sure. Cell phone, maybe that's a want. I would say that's a need in this day and age, cleaning supplies. Whereas recreation is those things that you're doing essentially just for fun. Like, you don't need to do that, but it does add joy to your life and you want to do that. So you want to track it, but you definitely don't need to be doing that stuff. You'll survive without it. But you can't really survive without food, or, you do need to stay interconnected with people. Okay. So here each month, you're going to see your income. You're going to see leftover from your projected and your actual. You're going to see the breakdown of your budgeted categories and what you actually spent once you input those values. Then you're going to see your savings rate, which is essentially how much you've saved and invested divided by your net income. So after your deductions are paid off, what is your income remaining? So in this example, let's say, well, this is how I like to do it. Let's say in this scenario, you have $935 left over. You should figure out a place for that $935. So maybe you take your income, subtract away all your projected expenses, and then you see how much do I have projected left over. And then you go into your savings and investment section and say, okay, I'm going to put $200. I think we said 900 something. So we're going to put $200 there. You're going to put $300 in your Roth IRA. Well, I would probably try to fill that up if I could, but you want to save for a vacation and a new car. So you're going to put those in there. You're going to look back and say, okay, so I have $235 left. So let's add the other 235 here. So 535, you have money going towards your emergency fund, your savings, and you're saving for some big expenses you plan on coming up. So that would be here. That would be in this category. You see the 935. So now your savings rate, your projected savings rate, is 22.8%. So you're saving, and in this instance also investing, 22.8% of your income after deductions. And then last is the breakdown for you to compare between your needs and wants. That's why it's so important to compare the two. And let's just add something there. So this won't work well, right? That's why you need sample data, but this won't show you anything. Let's see what it's supposed to look like, right? It's a pie chart showing you your expenses and how it's all being allocated, only caring about your actual. That's what we're really looking at, is your actual data, but at least your projected gives you a good idea as well. So, okay. So next is, we went through the notes. Next is the net worth tab, where you're going to be tracking your net worth each month. So please read through this, but your net worth categories primarily include your liquid assets, essentially things like cash or something that is readily available for you to utilize if needed. And then your investment assets, which include stocks, bonds, CDs. We also have liabilities and debts, which are negative, right? They're negative. Their liabilities are negative on your net worth, and we'll break that down shortly. So here, right, let's say you're going to do this every single month. You're going to keep track of your net worth, and you're going to keep track of, I mean, you could change these dates to whatever you want. Maybe you do want to do it every 3 months, every quarter, every 6 months, 12 months. It's your call. I like to track mine monthly, even though there's a lot of volatility or a lot of change each month. Where over the long time period, you see that straight, fairly straight growth, but in the short period, it goes up, a bit, it goes down, it goes up. So this is where you just log. You go into your bank account, you go to your Chase account, and you say, I got $2,000 in there on this day. I have this much in my savings account, this much in my high yield savings account. For your taxable investments, you have a Fidelity account with this much money. A CD gaining you 5% interest, right? You have $2,500 in there. You have retirement accounts. So I gave you a lot of the sample accounts. You just probably have to rename them for what makes sense for you. You have your retirement accounts here. You have your hard assets, which include things like your home value, rental property value, maybe your vehicle. That's good to account for here. I wouldn't get too granular with other types of assets, unless you have a big watch collection or something you really want to keep track of, but that's ultimately up to you how you want to track that. You just want to be consistent in the way you're tracking. And then this will calculate all of your total current assets between your hard assets, your total investment assets, and your bank assets. So this will be the total. And then now you need to start subtracting away your liabilities and debts. So for that home that you own here that's worth $285,000, well, you still have a debt of $250,000 on it. The rental property you have here, that's $150,000. You have a debt of $135,000, right? Your net worth is the asset minus the liability. You don't need to do that on every single line item. It does that in total. All of your assets minus all of your liabilities is the remainder of your net worth. And I very much recommend that you put a dash and then the percentage there, because you really want to pay off your highest interest rate debts first. We're not going to get into the math behind it, but the higher the interest rate, the more interest you're paying. So you definitely want to pay that one off first. There's other considerations, but that's definitely a big one. And then here you're going to have your total net worth tracked. And then each month it's going to calculate all this section. It's going to calculate for you. All these you don't want to erase. You don't want to mess with, right? But you do want to erase these and enter in values for them. And you want to replace these with values or, that makes sense for you. And then you're going to just continue tracking your net worth on this chart. And then the last one is our financial independence progress tracker. So the premise of financial independence is that you have income each month that is exceeding your expenses, and it's passive income. So the big thing for you to determine is what is the monthly expenses or annual expenses that you want to be able to cover each year. So therefore, what is the annual passive income you want to look for? In this instance, we have $80,000. So if you're going to go the real estate route, you need to know approximately how much cash flow will each property bring you. In this instance, it's monthly. We just multiply by 12 to get the annual cash flow. So then this will automatically tell you, based on your annual cash flow, how many properties do you need to achieve this $80,000? Well, it's 14 properties, and that's going to round up to the nearest whole number. And then you can track your progress by saying, okay, well, I currently have 5 rental properties getting me that $500 a month. So it'll tell you, okay, that those 5 properties generating $6,000 a year generate you $30,000, which is 37.5% of your $80,000 progress. If you're going the stock market route, there's something called the 4% rule, which essentially means you can pull out 4% of your stock account, your index funds. And as long as you don't pull more than that, this is just super general, but As long as you only pull 4% out or less, you will be able to, for the most part, survive indefinitely. And that stock account will continue to increase in value over time, so it won't run out before the end of your lifetime. There's a ton more factors into that, and nothing's ever guaranteed, but that's the premise, the 4% rule. And you just state, this will tell you 2,000 is how much you need. So or 2 million. It's the 80,000 times 25. And you currently have $500,000 in investments. That's what you put in here. So you're 25% of the way there. Or if you're doing both real estate and stocks, then that's included in here. So all you have to do is adjust the green ones. Everything else, the green cells, everything else will automatically calculate. So once again, if you have any questions, please start with this intro page, which provides a lot more information. Feel free to connect with me on Instagram and YouTube, where I'll provide more information on both these, as well as just DM me and let's stay connected. And if you need to, you can also email me as well. Thank you, and I hope you utilize this tool as much as possible and you really change your financial trajectory. Later.